This time on episode 261 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we discuss The Punisher Season 1, Episode 5, Gunner, Marvel Weekly Marvel News, and your feedback.
I'm Amos, host of Undaunted, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're a Marvel Comic Universe fan show, and this show is recorded on Sunday, November 4th, 2018, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast worldwide via www.geeks.live. You can come and join our live chat as we record. Ladies, happy National Candy Day!
Who got discount Halloween candy? Yeah!
I bought $80 worth of Halloween candy, and at the end of 1.5 hours of the Beggar's Night trick-or-treat, whatever you want to call it, I had one bag left. It was getting into dangerous emergency rations.
We don't get trick-or-treaters at my place, so we had one bag before Halloween. It was the cheapy stuff, but we like the cheapy stuff. And one discount bag after, full of the good stuff. And we are working our way through it.
We have a bunch of people that come into our neighborhood because we're one of the quote unquote good, safe neighborhoods that people tend to give out some good candy, and then we're a safe neighborhood. Now, I won't say that we give away full candy bars or packs of full candy bars like I've heard some neighbors do, but we give out decent candy and it's safe. So we get a lot of people just from outside the neighborhood. That's fine. I'm all for it. I love to see the costumes and everything. It was drizzling a little bit, so I had to have the umbrella up, and I was out on the driveway, and I saw a couple of caps that were running. I told them on your left. Of course, these 8-year-olds didn't get it, but it said on your left. And I saw like 1 or 2 Iron Man, but I saw Spider-Man after Spider-Man after Spider-Man. And I asked all of that, and Flash. So Spider-Man and Flash were definitely the 2 big ones. And of course, other things like fairies and goblins and demons and stuff like that. But so I asked all the Spider-Man and Flash which one they were. And they all, except for one kid, all of them looked at me like I had 3 heads. And were like, I'm the Flash. I'm like, okay, well, are you Barry? Are you Wally? I mean, which Flash are you? I'm the Flash.
Are you Jay?
Yeah.
Did either of you dress up for Halloween?
No. I did not.
Oh. So every year I dress up for Halloween. This is the second time in my entire life that I have not dressed up. The first time was for a funeral. This time I was just feeling really, really bad that day. But we ended up still having a good night of it. Stayed in, watched some good Halloween movies. Yeah, we ended up watching Dracula Dead and loving it. Have either of y'all seen that one?
Nope.
Mel Brooks movie? Okay. If you have seen any of the Dracula movies, particularly Bram Stoker's Dracula, it is a fantastic riff on those. If you like Mel Brooks movies, if you like Leslie Nielsen, it's great. It's kind of dumb fun, but I dug it. It was kind of exactly what I needed that night.
Michelle, did you have any special plans on Halloween, or did you just stay in?
Just stayed in.
Okay. Well, that works too. I mean, it was a Wednesday night this year. It is what it is. All right, let's get on with the podcast. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., now in the 24th hiatus week following the season 5 finale, almost a half a year. The multiple Marvel Netflix series and the Marvel cinematic and comic book universes in general.
Because arrows are no substitute for saying hello.
If you'd like to talk to us about various methods of saying hello, You can visit our website, legendsofshield.com.
If you'd like to tell us about your experiences with arrows and saying hello, you can call us at our voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
You can find us on Facebook, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
You can tweet us at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You can see our faces on YouTube, www.youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
You can tell your Amazon device to enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
And Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
Agent Haley cannot be with us tonight. That's all right. She said she will be back next week, so we will miss her for a week. But she's taking some of that PTO time that she dug me about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, she takes her fair amount of PTO time too. So we'll see her back again next week. In the meantime, we've got a great episode of The Punisher to go over, which we're going to start right now. We're talking about the season 1 of The Punisher, which dropped on Netflix November 17, 2017, almost a year ago, not quite yet. And season 2 is set to air sometime in 2019. We don't have an air date or a trailer yet for that, but we are looking forward to it. So this episode was titled Gunner. Lauren, who directed this episode?
The episode was directed by, and I'm very sorry for probably getting this wrong, Dearbhla Walsh. And she has 26 directing credits starting in 1996, starting with a TV show called Ras Naroon. She also has 7 episodes of EastEnders, 7 episodes of Shameless, a miniseries for Little Dorrit, 5 episodes of The Tudors, some episodes of Borgia, not The Borgias. I think there's a difference. 2 episodes of Penny Dreadful, which I really need to finish watching at some point. This episode of The Punisher, 2 episodes of Fargo, and 3 episodes of the upcoming Jerusalem.
Sounds like a lot of experience there. Looking forward to talking about her in the future. Michelle, who wrote this episode?
This episode was written by Michael Jones Morales, has 9 writing credits starting in 2012, including 1 episode of Warehouse, but Michael was a staff writer for 19 of episodes of Warehouse 13, has written 1 episode of Into the Badlands, 2 of Containment, and this episode of The Punisher. And remember, this is based on the Marvel Comics by Jerry Conway, John Romita Sr., and Ross Andru.
Gunner is the title of this episode. And since Haley's not here, I'm just going to take a stab at this. Gunner, you could claim it's the Punisher, so he's got a lot of guns and he likes to, shoot guns and whatever. I'm just going to go to the heart of it. We're talking about one of Frank's teammates in the Cerberus operation by the name of Gunner. And this episode was all about Gunner.
Interestingly, I just wanted to say, maybe it was an episode or so ago when someone was like, what kind of name is Gunner? It's actually from an Old Norse name, Gunnar, and it means brave warrior, just warrior. And it's kind of an older name. And there's variants of it. Gunder, Gunther. Gunnario is an Italian version of it. It's a really popular name. So one of you remember that band from the 80s, Nelson? They had the long blonde hair.
Yeah.
One of them was named Gunner.
Huh. Did not know that. Although this might be the Gunner/Gunther that was in charge of the security at Star Labs that Crimson Comet used to talk about on the Gonna Geek Network. Okay, I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched The Flash in so long.
Well, the key was there was no security to Star Labs, and so they had this guy that was called Gunther, who was in charge of security and feeding the prisoners that were in the cells in there.
There's also, on Adventure Time, there's all of the penguins are named Gunther.
Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
I just want to point out that if your name is if your character in the show and your name is the title of one of the episodes, you're probably not going to make it through the episode, especially in the Punisher series. If you're being highlighted by the name of the title, you're probably not going to be around as a character by the end of the episode. So, little spoiler alert for future episodes. Let's talk about Frank Castle, Michelle. He has gone through quite a bit in this episode, but he starts with following up on something that he was doing for the Liebermans, and it seemed like he was just doing it to poke at Micro, but I think he was just following up because Micro told him to take care of it.
Yeah, he goes back to the Liebermans to fix the headlight in the car, and he's bonding with Sarah a little bit more. And the older daughter seems to like Frank. They had that moment with fixing the sink and such. So she seems to, I don't know, respect him somehow. And she's the one that wants to invite him to dinner. And her mom actually does. And we end up seeing that Frank gets distracted, so he doesn't end up going to dinner at the Liebermans.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. I need to point out, because I've worked on headlights before, and you see the bumper cover that's down in some cars. In order to change the light bulb, you need to do something ridiculous like that. This is changing out the full headlight, and the bumper guard comes down. That's not an easy task. And all those little clips that go into the front rubber bumper thing, they often break and everything. So for him to be able to do that and fix it and actually put it back together in one piece, I'm assuming, we didn't see the van afterwards, but I'm assuming it was all one piece. My hat is off to the mechanic skills of Frank Castle, because that is not simple to do. I mean, it's simple, but it's not simple to do and not break anything.
Yeah, product placement Honda there. And I know that one of the big deals about Honda is that, well, it's supposed to be like, oh, everything's kind of modular, everything can be replaced. But one of the things, I'm not sure what model that was.
It had to have been like I'm thinking a 2003, 2004-ish model.
But if it was like an Accord or whatever it was. But
oh, it was a Honda Odyssey minivan.
Odyssey. Okay. I'm not sure how it is with those, but I know that whenever I take my car in, it's kind of a big deal. Like, oh, okay, well, here's something. I'm like, well, this should be a simple fix. And I'm like, no, we're going to have to take apart like everything. And I'm like, and they're like, well, it's because of the way that Honda builds its cars. It's built because of the way that they're built sort of to crumble because it's, hey, safety, but they're built to crumble. So you sort of have to take apart, I guess, everything.
Well, not to mention minivans are not designed for easy access anywhere. I mean, the engine compartment is kind of big and it's up front, but then the seating compartment is right there on top of it. So it's a pain in the butt to work on anything in the engine compartment.
Yeah, again, I am not a mechanic. I'm a biology person. I am not a mechanical person. But I have been told this by many people who have kind of, futzed around on my car that, yeah, Hondas are fiddly.
It's kind of funny because Leo is saying, hey, Mom, we need to invite him over. And of course, she's trying to actually hook her mom, Sarah, up with, what's his fake name here? It's not Pete, is
Pete.
It is Pete? Okay.
It's Pete.
So she's trying to hook up Pete with Leo. And we know that David is still in the picture. And we know that Frank's not going to move on Sarah or anything like that. But Leo doesn't know that. So she's arguing back and forth with Sarah. And then all of a sudden Frank shows up and Sarah's like, oh yeah, hey, we'd like to have you over. So kind of solved that argument right there.
So I don't know how many of y'all listen to a podcast called My Favorite Murder, which I know seems out of the blue for this discussion, but there's this phenomenon where one of the reasons that a lot of women get injured and killed is because we're sort of socialized to not raise a fuss and to be polite and ignore our gut feelings to avoid causing a fuss. And if you look at how a bunch of serial killers in the past have, or now even, have been able to get women into situations that they shouldn't have been, a lot of it is the whole don't cause a scene, don't cause a scene. And that podcast, one of their sayings is, F politeness. because if something feels bad to you, cause a scene. And what she's doing here is, now, it's impolite to not cause a scene. She has a weird feeling. I'm not saying, well, actually, yes, Frank Castle is technically a serial killer. More of a vigilante, but technically he is a serial killer. So yeah, she is technically inviting a serial killer into her home for dinner. You guys, if you have a bad feeling about somebody, don't invite them home for dinner.
Good safety tip again from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. brought to you by Lauren.
Yeah, if you have a bad feeling about somebody, if you are in a situation that doesn't feel right to you, it's okay to not be polite. It's okay to make a loud noise and get out of there. To keep yourself safe.
Yep, safety's good. Talking about safety, we get a little bit of our reminder of safety with Karen Page in this episode as well, don't we, Michelle?
Yeah. Dinah decides to bring Karen in because she knows Karen is connected to Frank Castle. And because Frank saved her from the car accident, she knows Frank Castle is alive. And now she's wanting to look into all of his former people in the military and, remember that whole trial. So there's Karen Page. And it's a very interesting exchange. At first I'm going, is Karen there to ask Dinah questions, or is, Dinah there? And finally realize, okay, Karen was called in, and it's just a nice exchange they both have. It's like the women know that they're hiding something from each other, but they can't prove it. And so they just kind of have that sort of nice, tete-a-tete, I suppose.
It was interesting watching them both go back and forth with each other. Now, Dinah has a lot of training. She's been in interrogation for quite some time. And quite honestly, what Karen hasn't picked up, she's just a natural with. So it is interesting watching those two go back and forth. And I'm guessing it's not the last time we're going to see them both in a room questioning each other on or off the record.
I like how Micro has a camera on Karen's windowsill, and he's like, Frank, you got mail, and we see the flowers. I'm wondering, those have to be new flowers. Karen has to be going out and buying new flowers because, wouldn't they be dead by now? Or do you think she's actually being able to take care of them?
If it was me, I would just go to Walmart or something and buy some of those plastic flowers.
True, but those are daisies, right? They look like daisy. They last longer than a rosewood or whatever. So, there's something about that. As a guy who has bought flowers before, I tend to know a thing or two about flowers. They're not desirable, but they look nice and they last long. So, I guess any flower is good.
Yeah, I'm not a flowers person, so.
But they could be fake to begin with too. Do we know they were real?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really bad about telling. Like I'm one of those people like if I see a flower in a vase, I have to go poke it.
You have to poke the flower.
I do. I want to know if it's real or not, so I have to go poke it.
I was wondering if this was some weird sort of biology thing. Yes, it stimulates growth in the flowers. You have to poke them.
No. Actually, a lot of times if it's a really delicate plant, if you poke it, it'll die. But I have to know if it's real or not. So I end up poking flowers in vases and people are like, please don't do that. And I'm like, but is it real? I'm also the weirdo who used to chew on, when I was a kid, I would chew on those little fruits in bowls to try to figure out if they were real or not. And most of the time they were fake. So then I just end up chewing on fake grapes.
Sometimes you can't tell.
Yeah. Speaking of trying to tell fake from real, we see Agent Orange is working in the CIA, and he says, I am William Rollins. Fake name, real name. I'm going with fake.
Yeah, William Rollins is not a real name. Yeah, it's probably not a real name. But it's the one he goes with inside the CIA.
I like how he gets a medal that he can't keep.
That's been pretty well documented in films and whatever for quite some time. The whole Jack Ryan thing, he got one of those medals. In some of those medals are there's a wall supposedly in the CIA headquarters. There's stars for those who've lost their lives, but I think there's a wall that gives the fake names and the awards. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, there's a lot of those in this country.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Also, I guess he's lost an eye from the last time we've seen him in the flashback.
Which eye did he lose? I was having trouble distinguishing.
It looked like the left eye. When he first showed up, I'm like, is he wearing a contact? And then you mentioned that he'd lost an eye.
So it was moving, though, with the other eye. Actually, I didn't see his eyes move all that much together, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know the right eye, the right eye was kind of squinting a little bit, so it was difficult for me to determine which was real and which was the fake one.
It was probably, what it probably was is that they were saying, oh, he lost vision in the eye or something like that, because he clearly doesn't have a glass eye. If you've ever seen somebody who has a prosthetic eye, I mean, mostly it's pretty hard to tell. But if you go back and you watch, say, Columbo or The Princess Bride and look at Peter Falk, you can kind of tell that one eye isn't quite moving the same as the other.
Okay, well, Michelle, what else do we know about Agent Orange / William Rollins?
Well, we learn he's trying to clean out his closet, or basically kill everything that's in his closet, because he wants that promotion. His boss is like, is there anything I need to know that can come and bite me or bite you? And he's like, no, of course not.
The guy has a different definition of spring cleaning than most of us.
Yeah, and you have to think that the boss kind of knew that there was something like this going on, and she was basically giving him orders to make sure that he was clean, because they're going to need to be clean in the future for political reasons. I can see that in DC. Just we've seen it recently with politics and everything. I don't want to get into recent events, but higher levels within the CIA are political. They're not exactly work related. So we will see what happens in the future, especially since we know he might think he succeeded, but I don't know. He did not. When the last person died of the team, there was 8 people in the team, and Frank and Gunner basically take them all out. And that was an interesting, let's talk about that, because that was an interesting fight scene. That was the first kind of TV or small screen that I saw from a POV version of basically like a Halo version. And it was an interesting way to depict it.
So this whole fight scene comes about. Frank saw the video that, okay, we'd previously seen, what's his name?
Frank or Gunner?
No,
Micro?
No, the video that Gunner made in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Of Madani's contact. I'm blanking out on his name. Starts with a Z.
The local cop in Kandahar.
Yeah. But somebody in that team had made a video of this guy's execution. And Micro found it, played it for Frank. Frank is like, okay, this is the guy that must have made it. They thought Frank had made the tape, and that's why they killed Frank's family. So Frank is like, I'm going to go talk to Gunner. Finds Gunner living out in the woods. That's when Frank gets shot in the shoulder with an arrow. Because guess what? Being hunted by the government makes you really paranoid. Frank, you really should have seen this coming. And then a team comes and hunts. They talk a little bit, and then a team comes and hunts them down. I was really looking forward to this scene, not just because of the action, but because one of the guys playing the kill team there is Travis Willingham, who's a voice actor that I really love. If you've ever seen Full Metal Alchemist, he plays Roy Mustang. It was like his first big role. He's been a voice in like freaking everything. And if anybody here watches Critical Role, he's on that. And I'd seen like a behind the scenes thing that he posted on his Twitter. Oh, thanks for letting me be on this. And it was one of the like the teaser clips they showed promoting the show. And he got murdered all to hell. He was the guy that got like stabbed and used as like
oh yeah, the pogo stick. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal. And they got him because he does a good death yell. You'd work in video games for a while, you do good death yells. And speaking of Critical Role, by the way, on this past week's show, they did a belated Halloween episode, and Marisha Ray dressed up as Lisa Frank Castle.
Yep.
Yeah. Bright pink and neon colored, and yeah, pretty good. So yeah, this was a really good action scene. Lots of blood left and right. Not quite as, really not strategic at all as you would expect from like, a martial arts master like Daredevil or even Iron Fist. So far, we have not had an elevator fight scene, have we?
Not yet.
Or a hallway fight.
Well, Punisher's not really known for that, though. He's known for, here's my gun, I'm going to shoot it, or maybe some knife, but I don't really expect a hallway scene like that from Punisher.
Yeah, it's kind of become like the Netflix series signature, sort of.
We've gotten a lot of scenes in the elevator, though, with Madani. So
True.
That could be coming. We don't know yet.
Also, just an aside from the conversation that Gunnar and Frank were having, important might come up later. Apparently, the whole thing that made Gunnar decide to do this recording was when he went to visit this kid, had lent him a knife. Kid died. He was going to like return the knife to the kid's body. And he saw them packing the kid's body and a bunch of other corpses full of drugs before sending them back. And he's like, oh, this is bad. We are doing a very bad thing here.
Right. Getting back to the Colonel and everything that happened before.
Yeah.
With Frank and stuff. I need to go back to the fight here because I was just enthralled with the fight. It was great in the woods. I did expect a little bit more from Gunnar and Frank being out in the woods and out in the open. It seemed like it would be their sort of thing that they had been trained for, and they had worked together before. So I kind of expected maybe a little bit more, although they were disadvantaged because they didn't have weapons and weren't prepared and stuff like that. Also, perhaps my favorite fight of all time, because Micro uses a drone to help them. So I saw this thing take off and I was on the elliptical. I was already pumped up for the fight in the woods, and the drone takes off. It was a DJI Inspire. I don't know if it's Inspire 1 or 2, but it was an Inspire. I'm like, oh, heck yeah. And I was just awesome. Also, that drone seemed to have a very long flight time.
Yeah, I figured you'd be amped about that. Also, before this scene, a really good interaction between, I love the kind of animosity between Frank and Micro when they're in the car and Micro's mixing up the MRE, I guess it was, for Frank.
It looked like an MRE, but it was just like one of those tuna meals you can get in the supermarket.
Yeah, and then he pulls out a sandwich and Frank's like, where'd you get that? He's like, I made it. I have stuff in the fridge. I just assumed you like those.
And he didn't even offer, like, it was like 2 parts. And his Micro was like, and he didn't even offer Frank, oh, you would have liked a sandwich? Oh, here's the other half. No.
It's a huge sandwich. And then I love it. He's in the woods reading Life of Pi, eating his sandwich, while Frank's going off getting shot in the shoulder with an arrow.
Frank did tell him to stay where he was. So, I mean.
No. Again, he's busy being the guy in the chair, guy in the van.
He wasn't even in the van, though. He was sitting by the tree.
He's sitting under, the shade of a tree with his sandwich, reading Life of Pi, having a great old time, until he wasn't.
He did redeem himself at the end because he actually goes to get Frank, and he brings Frank back to the van. Apparently they have medical supplies, just in case sort of thing. And he's able to give Frank an IV. And at this point, we have not watched beyond this episode, or at least I have not. And I think both of you two have not either. I see Claire in the future. I might be wrong, but I'm kind of looking at Claire here.
This would be the logical place to have Claire because, hey, Frank is dying. I don't know if we will have Claire, but this would be the logical place for her. And also, I gotta say, if you're traveling with Frank Castle, it doesn't matter if you're going to the corner store. I feel like you have to have at least a first aid kit because this guy just invites trouble.
It's more than a first aid kit when you're sticking an IV in somebody.
Like I said, if you're traveling to the corner store, you carry a first aid kit. If you are going to upstate New York or wherever they're going, yeah, you carry a bit more than that because there's no way this guy isn't ending up minus half his blood volume at the end of the day.
Yeah, kind of surprised that he is still alive at the end of the day. And Gunnar, I guess Gunnar had more serious injuries, but Gunnar didn't make it. And Frank needs to go back and bury him because he agreed to bury Gunnar. So I think we're going back there at some point. The other thing we need to talk about in this episode is back in the station. We'll just call it the station with Dinah and Sam. They're being investigated because of the gun theft that happened last episode. And the Office of Inspector General is asking some uncomfortable questions. And the two of them have to get their story straight.
Yeah, we have Sam saying, I won't lie for you. And then he does.
Well, we don't know what he said because they didn't show it.
Good point. Good point.
He could have spilled everything to the Inspector General there and then come up with, okay, you continue on what you're doing. We're going to get Dinah eventually for this. You don't know.
Good point. I just assumed, maybe they're going to take advantage of that assumption.
I don't know. The way he came out, I mean, unless he's a really good actor, but he tells Madani that he'll give her a week to look into Frank's old buddies. So it seems as though he didn't say anything, but if he's doing a trap and stuff, for me, I think that would be just out of the blue, the way they've set Stein up to be.
Yeah, Stein definitely, you have him trying for a partnership work together thing a lot more than Madani. Madani just kind of takes it for granted that Stein is going to back her. And then she's like, no, but I'm going to work on my own.
I don't know if she took it for granted or not. I think she was reaching out. Like she knew she couldn't do it alone.
Recently, she's been trying. But the way I see her is somebody who, because of her past interactions with people, with authority, with everybody around her, she's built up a lot of walls. She's used to having to go behind people's backs. She's used to having to be the person to do things herself. And this person is here in her corner actively reaching out, and she doesn't know what to do about it. So now she's finding herself actively having to be like, okay, I will try to work with you, but still falling back into the old habits of just sort of taking for granted that she's going to be on her own again. So it's sort of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and he's trying, but kind of finding himself disappointed, as we've seen in previous episodes. Or he's like, am I your partner or not? Because she's a woman of Middle Eastern descent in this time period, in this post 9/11 time period, in this organization that should be making use of her and seems to be stymieing her. And she's a woman in a very largely male-dominated field. So there's like a lot of strikes against her here. And I can see her feeling very frustrated and feeling very like, I am the only one I can count on. And at the same time, now that she's met somebody, she's met several people who are like, I am willing to help you. You just might have to actively play the game for a while we are also working on this.
Yeah, that's what Rafi's saying, but I don't know if Sam, I think Sam knows there's been some corruption in the department, and I think if we don't know what Sam's history is, he did something to get on Wolf's bad boy list. We don't know what that was yet. I'm hoping that we will learn eventually so we can trust him or not trust him or whatever. But also, Madani is in the office as an outsider. So Sam knows she's not connected to anybody. So if Sam really was thinking that there was corruption in the department to begin with, that I could see him reaching out and trusting her. Problem would be this reciprocal, but we'll see what happens here. And then also, Dinah reaches out to somebody else that she has met. She's met people, and she's met Billy. And she has, well, Michelle, please enlighten me at what happened with Dinah and Billy in this episode.
Well, they go out for drinks, have a conversation, and then it's sexy times.
They are doing the do.
Thought it was very convenient that her bandages basically covered everything important on her torso. I don't, in this day and age of nudity on the screen and stuff like that, and actors and everybody concerned about how people appear on screen. Actually, I think that was artfully done. She did have a rather rough car accident like the day before.
Yeah. So I am lucky enough. Okay. I've dislocated a couple of ribs. Thank you, Ehlers-Danlos disease. But they pop in like right afterwards. I've been lucky enough to never break any ribs or crack any ribs. If anybody with boobs has ever broken or cracked any ribs, can you please let me know if they do bandage you like that? I'm not sure how all that works.
I know it would be incredibly painful to move around. So what she was doing...
I know that they're supposed to do like some sort of compression there. I just don't know. I don't know how it works. Like I said, I've been lucky enough to not ever have broken a rib.
The way she was being active with Billy after the bar, though, wow, she had to either be on intense painkillers or had drunken quite a bit.
Okay. So last year, I went to Alaska and I tore my midfoot. And it hurt quite a lot. Like I tore all the tendons and stuff in my midfoot. I was on a cruise and we had the drink package. And I was like, oh, we should probably go to the ship's doctor, but that's expensive. I am just going to drink. So it is possible to get around and do quite a lot of physical activity while drunk. I do not recommend it.
Does it take care of seasickness at the same time?
I don't get seasick.
Okay.
But yeah, I was able to hike around Alaska with a torn foot. I don't recommend it. But I guess if she had drunk enough, don't drink with painkillers. Do not drink with painkillers. Maybe she might not have noticed.
Okay.
Or at least been able to sort of push it aside enough. Because from the way she was acting, I don't think she would kind of be taking much of like a passive role in that. I think she seems very on top, you know?
Yeah, she was definitely taking control of the situation. And they were just trying to burn off a little steam together, basically, on their collective bad days. Let's talk about Billy's bad day, because I think we need to remind somebody, if they haven't watched the previous episode, that Billy had to let Lewis go from his organization because Lewis was a little bit unstable. Remember, Lewis was the guy who basically shot at his dad, thinking that his dad was an intruder or an enemy or something like that. So Lewis isn't exactly stable enough to be working field work at this point in time. And Billy had hired him, but had to let him go. So that was tough on everybody involved, Billy included.
Yeah.
So the next episode is going to be called The Judas Goat. And that's an interesting title. And any predictions for the next episode, Lauren?
People will tell Frank, no, you need to recover. And he'll be like, no, I don't. I'm the Punisher. And go do something stupid.
Okay. Michelle, you think we're going to get Claire?
No, I don't. And Judas, well, implies betrayal. So I think someone's going to get betrayed.
Well, and goat is like scapegoat.
Well, okay, technically, the Judas goat is a term used in slaughterhouses because it's a goat that like lives at a slaughterhouse, and it will like they'll be like, okay, come here into this pen, into the whatever, and it'll go in there, and the other goats will see it going in and be like, oh, okay, this is cool, and follow it in. Oh, hey, it just led them into the slaughterhouse. That's why they call it that. It's sort of the betrayer goat. So somebody is getting led to the slaughter, essentially.
All right. A lot more blood, a lot more guns, a lot more violence, which is the Punisher. And I think they've done it well so far. It hasn't been overly done. It was gruesome, and definitely wouldn't want little kids watching it, but I think it's been artfully done for Netflix so far. Lauren, before we get to the Punisher next week with the Judas Goat, if other people have something that they want to see, I mean, we've got a whole network full of shows, right?
We do. We have all the shows on the GonnaGeek.com network. In fact, if you've enjoyed this episode and you have a geeky-related podcast of your own that you think would be a good fit for the network, you can fill out our application form found at www.gonnageek.com/join. That's www.gonnageek.com/join, and maybe join the network too.
Looking forward to seeing some new applications. Now let's get on to the news.
Well, we have some news items this week. We're going to start with the streaming service.
Okay, so this news broke earlier and I screamed because this is everything I've ever wanted. Falcon and Winter Soldier limited series in the work with Empire writer. I'm so happy. So a while back, this was after Winter Soldier. No, it was after Civil War came out. A bunch of people were like, because of, the interaction between Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, who are actually really good friends and a fantastic double act should you ever catch them at a convention together. Oh, they should just have like a buddy comedy where they just hang out and riff off each other. Well, they look like they're going to be having a show together on the upcoming streaming service. The writer is going to be, let me find the name. Malcolm Spellman, who, yes, also wrote Rights for Empire on Fox, and also wrote the screenplay for the feature film Our Family Wedding. So, yeah, pretty good writer. And seriously, these two are a fantastic double act. It being a limited series means it shouldn't wear out its welcome. Just a nice, fun show of these two it kind of like a cop drama, I'd imagine, that buddy cop feel of them being like the reluctant partners, like the Lethal Weapon Riggs and Murtaugh feel, I'd imagine. Oh, God, I'm just so looking forward to this. Just them kind of bouncing off each other, being bros and like antagonistic bros.
I like how they labeled it a limited series, especially after those viewers on the Netflix streaming series that might have felt a little bit betrayed about the cancellation of Iron Fist and Luke Cage. So at least they know this isn't meant for a long haul. It's going to be a limited series.
Kevin Feige also discusses the streaming channel.
Yeah, this actually broke on the Mary Sue just while we started recording. Again, discussing the whole Winter Soldier Falcon thing and the standalone series for Loki and Scarlet Witch. Feige said, "We are going to tell stories for the streaming service that we wouldn't be able to tell in a theatrical experience, a longer form narrative. That's what comics are. It's about as long form a narrative that exists, but also maintaining that theatrical experience, which is our bread and butter." And he also mentioned the importance of representation, especially with regards to Black Panther. He mentioned the importance of diversity both in front of and behind the camera, which is very important. It's just a really interesting interview. So yeah, check it out.
Basically, Kevin Feige is the Marvel sniper, so, whatever he wants goes, basically.
Chris Evans and Paul Bettany are obsessed with something.
Okay, do either of y'all follow Mark Ruffalo on either Twitter or Instagram?
I follow him on Instagram, yeah.
Okay, did you see this picture of teenage Mark Ruffalo the other day?
I did.
It's for the Throwback Thursday.
There was a ton of comments and likes on it, yeah.
Okay, it is a picture from October 25th of teenage Mark Ruffalo. So awkward. I mean, braces, just he's very clearly growing into his face, awkward hair, you name it. Adorable in a really dorky way. And it got commented on by his coworkers. Paul Bettany on Twitter, #new profile pic. It is indeed his new profile picture. And then Evans came at it. Chris Evans said, "It actually makes me furious that I can't hang out with this kid." And then Mark Ruffalo said, "It actually makes me furious that I can't hang out with this kid," bringing in pictures of young Chris Evans. Y'all remember the whole back circa the early 90s, late 80s, those pictures from, school picture day with the lasers in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of those. One of Chris Evans with the middle part bowl cut, where actually he looks like a friend of mine from elementary school. And then, yeah, Chris Evans again added, "Clearly I could have used the friend. Also, I changed the form on the way to school and checked the laser background box instead. Sadly, it didn't have the effect on my social standing that I had initially presumed." So I just love these people interacting on social media. It's so fun.
And what does Chris have to lose at this point? He's done. He can't give anything away about Avengers 4, but aside from that, it's just time for him to have fun.
He's absolutely a pro follow on Twitter, by the way. He's so fun. He is a good dude.
We have news about the PG-13 release of Deadpool 2.
We talked about it before, right? That they're planning to re-release Deadpool as a PG-13 version to take up the spot that was going to be, I forget what movie it was going to be in that space initially. But we had mentioned, okay, they're going to have the Princess Bride-esque framing device with adult Fred Savage and Deadpool reading him the story. But that's not going to be the only thing. According to /Film, the writers revealed that while the story won't be different than the R-rated version, it's going to have some added stuff. Ryan Reynolds recently suited up and shot a bunch of new footage for the movie. After Deadpool 2 came out, we were all sitting around. We came to it a little less about the idea of let's make a PG-13 movie and more, let's talk a little bit about Deadpool. Ryan had a great framing device and we all got excited and went to the studio. They said, "Yeah, let's do it. Fire up the cameras." About 2 months ago, we were out on the sound stages shooting again. Ryan was in the suit and the gang was back together. So I'm really curious. I know, okay, part of me is like, it's just a money grab. But then I know I'm going to go see it because I want to see what they're doing. And plus, I'm a huge Princess Bride fan, so of course I'm going to, come on.
The creativity of the Deadpool team, including Ryan, is just phenomenal. And I think it's worth going to see. Okay, money grab, but it's going to be great. And then, of course, I can't wait for all the Deadpool cameos once we no longer have cameos from Stan Lee. It's all going to be Deadpool.
Deadpool is just like I went to see Venom. We were talking about this right before the show. I went to see Venom just before we recorded, which, by the way, is a wonderful romance comedy, completely misadvertised. And we were talking about how there's some critics that have called it, like, Venom is basically a t-shirt character in that he was one of those mid-90s characters that you wear the logo on your t-shirt. And there's not really much to him beyond that. And it's up to a good writer to find something to do with that character. Deadpool was sort of the same way for a long time. And recently, in the past, I don't know, 5-7 years, Deadpool has kind of been revived as a fun character again. So hopefully Venom kind of does that and brings Venom back to being more than a t-shirt character. Although I think with the whole Agent Venom stuff in the comics, he's been kind of fun again. But yeah, Deadpool's just fun again. Ryan Reynolds just brought so much to the role. It's been great.
Speaking of Ryan Reynolds, his bromance with Hugh Jackman continues.
Have either of you seen these videos that were released by him and Hugh Jackman?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love the fake political ad Ryan Reynolds did, especially we're close to election day right now as we record this, and we're hearing these things all the time.
Election ads, I think we can all agree, are the worst. There's a good reason that during state election times, well, first of all, I watch Cartoon Network and the Cooking Channel relentlessly anyway, but especially during election season, because they don't run local election ads. Right now, what this is Hugh Jackman is in a politically themed film called The Front Runner, and Jackman's performance is rumored to be award-worthy, and Ryan Reynolds does kind of a political hit ad on him. It's pretty fantastic. To which Hugh Jackman responded, "High road." And it's a short video of his dog taking a poop on a picture of Ryan Reynolds dressed as Deadpool. Just these two, y'all, these two.
Always a good time with those two. And Hugh, like Chris Evans, is now out of the Marvel universe, at least for now. So
let Hugh Jackman eat cheeseburgers 2018.
He gave us a great ride, and especially a phenomenal last movie. Really enthralled with that one. And also Patrick Stewart's last movie, too. All right, time to get into some feedback.
Hey, we had a lot of action on Twitter, starting with @AdonnaGirl.
Adonna Girl tweeted us, "There's an MCU character in this list." @Stitch Kingdom has the Ralph Breaks the Internet cast list. It's a really good cast list. Actually, I'm looking at the cast list right now of all the people that are in it, all the voice actors, a bunch of people I recognize. But the one that I think people might be really excited for, Baby Groot, Vin Diesel. So we are having at least one MCU character in this movie.
That's awesome. And of course, Disney can do these great crossovers. I'm looking for the first Disney Star Wars Marvel crossover, because it's coming at some point in time. And even though Star Wars had pulled back on their production of main stuff, you just know that at some point in time, they're going to, even if it's one of the animated cartoons that they throw out, there's going to be some kind of a crossover.
Oh, hey, Jennifer Hale is Cinderella.
Jennifer Hale. Oh,
Jennifer Hale, by the way,
favorite,
is the newest Overwatch hero. So hype about that.
Well, that's great, especially since we haven't gotten too much of her in the other main property that she's part of recently.
So Cajun Sean had something to say about SP.
Listening to episode 231, SP sounds like a member of the IOA.
Hey now, not all IOA members were bad. Ricardo, he actually came back and ran Atlantis, so there can be some saviors in the IOA.
Sean, it took us forever to figure out. We were like, IOA, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what that is. Frantic Googling. And then like, Stargate, Robert Picardo. Got it.
For those that are missing what's going on here, the IOA was the international committee that oversaw Stargate operations in the latter part of the TV universe of Stargate. So I think there's not going to be an IOA in any future iterations of Stargate because, well, they're not going back to that, unfortunately. But that's a story for a different day.
Born to Eat Bacon asked us a question.
Born to Eat Bacon said, "What are your feelings about the return of the Uncanny X-Men / X-Men Black? Have you read any of the one-offs leading up to it? And there's this whole conversation, but let's ask on this podcast, have any of us been reading it?
Michelle?
No.
I have not either. I've just recently, within the past few months, beginning of the summer, really, I've cut back on a lot of the mutant books that I was getting on Marvel. Matter of fact, books in general, just because of the issues with Marvel. The stories were cliche-ish. The art was really dropping off, and it just didn't seem to be something that I wanted to read on a weekly basis. Wasn't getting out of it what I was pushing in. So the only mutant book that I'm still receiving is Domino, but everything else I'm gotten rid of.
I will be picking up at some point the issues that Shannon McGuire wrote, because she's one of my favorite writers. I've met her several times. She's amazing. And her life's goal was to write for X-Men. I just haven't had the chance yet because I've been very busy.
What series is she writing for?
Right now she's writing for Spider-Gwen.
Okay.
But she's also written several episodes of X-Men Black. She wrote X-Men Black Mystique. She wrote, oh my God, Scott Aukerman wrote X-Men Black Mojo.
I have gotten Spider-Gwen, so I have seen her stuff.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite authors. She's written as Shannon McGuire. She writes the October Day series as Mira Grant. She writes the Newsflesh series. Those are her big series. She also writes just several other small, other series and other standalone books. All amazing. Her writing is fantastic. And like I said, as long as I've known of her, she's a huge fan of Emma Frost. Like the very first time I ever met her, we squealed about X-Men. And she's always said, it's my life goal to write X-Men. She is finally writing X-Men, and I could not be happier for her. So over the holidays, I'm going to be picking up all the X-Men books that she's written and reading them. But just over the past year, I've been really, really angry at Marvel Comics and haven't bought that many from them. So over the holidays, I'm going to be like, okay, what do I honestly really want to read?
Yeah.
And going over, but for time reasons, for money reasons, I haven't been picking them up.
Yeah, in a future podcast, I might get a list together of everything that's still on my pull list, and we might go over that if you guys want to, but we don't have to.
But yes, take this as an endorsement of anything Shannon McGuire writes. Shannon McGuire. Pro follow on Twitter. Absolute amazing follow on Twitter. Absolute amazing writer. Just fantastic. So good.
Mm-hmm. All right. In the spirit of my favorite fight scene ever, we are going to fly the drone and get this one out. Thanks, everybody that has been catching up, like Born to Eat Bacon and Cajun Sean, and listening to our episodes or reading the comics and asking us about it. Thank you very much for all that. We really appreciate the interaction. Don't forget, we have a Discord server, which you can interact with us over there as well. That's gonnageek.com/Discord. Come on in, and we've been having a little bit of Marvel conversations, not only in the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. channel, but also in the TV and film channel in there as well. So come join the fun.
Thank you to everybody who gets a hold of us. We love hearing from you. Thanks to everybody who's stuck with us for this long. I can't believe it's been just so many years at this point. Guys, we've been here a while.
Yeah, the podcast was officially started in the September timeframe in 2013. So
that's a really long time.
Yeah, the podcast is now 5 years old. Yeah.
I love you guys.
Yes, thank you to everyone who downloads us and listens to us or goes over to YouTube to watch our beautiful faces.
And they are indeed beautiful. Well, you ladies, of course, are beautiful. I am just passable. I'm here just the monkey flipping the switches. So in that space, until next time, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2018.